Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I am a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer, co-host of this podcast, and also apparently I've got a dog on my lap for the first time on this episode. Of all the episodes we've been doing, my dog decided to jump up on my lap, and he's perched here.
He's standing there like a cow.
Yeah, and I'm trying to reach the microphone, so if I sound a little distant, it's not because I'm distant, folks. It's because the dog is in between me and the mic.
You know, you seem a little distant to me, actually. Why so distant?
I don't know, you know. So listen, I've been taking this class. I almost hesitate to mention. Because, I went to the first class before I signed up, and the instructor was so charismatic. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to learn from this guy because he's the real deal, super talented. And so I signed up, and boy, was it a mistake.
What kind of a class is it?
Well, it's a music production class, which means it's about like producing music on the computer with the software and all that. Or at least that is what it's supposed to be about.
Oh, dear.
I won't even tell you where it is, but here's the deal. The guy, I still believe he's a really great guy, and I like him as a person. He's very charismatic and should be like a speaker of some sort, like a motivational speaker, because he always makes me feel very motivated and very inspired,
right?
But he's not a teacher.
Yeah.
And he goes off on these...
It takes a special kind of person.
Yeah. He goes off on these tangents that drive me nuts. I feel frustrated because I feel like I want to say, just get back onto topic.
I had that problem when you know what? It's because we're older.
Is it?
Yes. When I went to cosmetology school in my 40s, I was far more irritated by teachers not getting to the point than all the rest of the 20-something-year-olds were.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's it then.
Yeah. I'm like, hurry up. I paid money to be here. I want to learn.
Yeah. I want to have like tools in my toolbox, not just stories that, are somewhat interesting. Yeah. And I'm torn. Like, it would be easy to hate the class if he was not so...
enjoyable.
Yeah, like I enjoy being there and hearing him. He's like the kind of guy I think, I'd really love to go out and have a drink with you.
Yeah.
And I bet that would be fun with the stories you've got. But in class is not the place to tell them.
This is true.
But that's my rant.
Wow.
My rant with a puppy dog on my lap.
Do you feel better?
You know what? I do.
Good.
Do I sound less distant?
Nope, you're still about 12 inches away from that mic there.
All right, we'll have to fix that in
dog's
post.
length.
Yes.
All right. So let's see, what's happening? Oh, I found something interesting. So Meghan Markle's ancestor was beheaded by Henry VIII.
What?
Who knew?
How did that happen?
Well, let me
Don't say guillotine.
No, they didn't do that. Was French.
Oh.
It was always an axe or a sword.
Ugh. I guess it took the French to automate it, right?
Well, at least it was probably far less painful and cleaner.
Yeah. Because like one time usually would do the trick with the guillotine, but it might have taken a few whacks at the... Ugh.
They had to. There were stories about them having to chase Lady Margaret Pole around because she ran.
Oh, I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Poor Lady Margaret Pole.
So, who is this ancestor, and what did she do to merit a beheading?
Okay, here's what happened. I got to find it. Henry VIII of England reigned 1509 to 1547. Sorry. The Telegraph credits his discovery to Michael Reed. Oh, this discovery, an Australian teacher. Blah blah blah. By his account, Markle is related to Lord Hussey. I've heard of the Husseys. Don't.
I am biting my tongue.
First Baron Hussey of Sleaford. This 15th and 16th century royal earned knighthood during the Cornish Rebellion of 1497, the famous Cornish Rebellion.
Is this the one where they didn't have enough
corn?
They didn't have enough
Pasties.
Cornish hens?
Oh, I was going with pasties.
Oh, I don't even know what pasties are.
They're a deliciousness.
What are they?
They're a pastry. They're like a meat pie, kind of, but they have vegetables and meat in them, and they're a different shape.
You lost me at meat pie. I don't like meat pies.
Well, you can have them without meat.
Ever since I saw Sweeney Todd, I don't want any Mrs. Lovett's meat pies.
Okay, the difference between a Cornish pasty and a meat pie is that there's no sauce or liquid in a pasty. It's drier. Sounds delicious, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really whetting my appetite. After that, thinking of some woman being chased around to have her head chopped off and now eating like dry meat in a pie. No thanks.
Strangely, none of it is bothering me at all. Anywho, the Cornish Rebellion of 1497. But when he was unable to put down another rebellion 4 decades later, Henry VIII called for his land, his wealth, and his head.
Really?
Yes. Markle is a biracial woman, no kidding, with a black mother and a white Jewish father, and the relation to Lord Hussey comes from her father, Thomas W. Markle. He is descended from Captain Christopher Hussey, the great-great-great-grandson of Lord Hussey, who is also one of the English colonists who found Nantucket in the 1600s. The Telegraph suggests Markle and Prince Harry may actually be very distant cousins through a shared ancestor, High Sheriff of County Durham Ralph Bowes, born in the late 15th century. Okay, there's nothing weird about that. When people hear that, they think it's the creepiest thing ever that they may be distant cousins.
Well, that's pretty distant.
But there are people, in fact, I spoke to somebody yesterday that was pointing out that, look, this person matches on both my maternal and my paternal side. But but she was a very distant match. So it was probably a couple hundred years ago. And I reminded her that we have 62 third great grandparents.
Well, I mean, especially with the royals, quite frankly, because don't they always have to marry somebody?
Well, they used to marry first cousins all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, a part of it was because they wanted to only marry someone else who was
bloodline.
royal. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's not like
that really messed things up, didn't it? Yeah, that's kind of interesting, I guess.
Well, for Anglophiles such as yourself, it's fascinating. For people that are just like like me, yeah, that's interesting.
It's okay.
I could take it or leave it.
I like it.
I'm sort of like in that class going, all right, get to the point, Julie. Give me a DNA tool that I can use from this information.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? This is not a DNA tool, but it's a Julie's Believe It or Not.
Oh,
I have another one.
Is this a Believe It or Not that you actually posted a picture of me as Daddy Warbucks and Annie on the Facebook page? Because I saw that.
Yes.
That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm glad you folks could enjoy seeing a 16-year-old playing a 40-year-old.
You looked hot. Can I just say, that's a very good picture of you.
Well,
you.
What do you mean?
You're 16. Of course you looked hot.
Yeah.
But that sounded creepy coming from a woman of my age. But the bald cap was on point.
Well, it was a bald cap, but they put makeup on it.
They did of course.
And made it
a lot
match.
of the times they do that in high school settings.
Yeah. Oh no, I actually have a Super 8 film somewhere of them putting that on my head and painting my the makeup and everything.
That's fun.
I'd love to see where that is, or if I could get that onto.
Get it transferred.
Yeah, because I'd love to see that.
We found a bunch of old videotapes today of old productions like that I did at Disney and stuff. I had no idea they existed.
How fun.
Yeah, so we're going to get them transferred. I'm excited.
But anyway, we're back to Julie's Believe It or Not.
Believe It or Not. This is a case that is happening right now, and it's a doozy, guys. As always, no names are ever mentioned or locations to protect people's privacy. But it's a true story.
Okay.
And you wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. Well, I would because I've lived it. But if it didn't happen to me, it would be suspect.
All right.
So, well, it didn't happen to me, but you know what I mean. All right. So this one woman that I'm working with is adopted. And she was born in the 60s, early 60s, as most of us were.
Most of us?
As most of us people who were adopted. It seemed most of the people that are looking for their biological parents are somewhere in their 40s and 50s. I have discovered from all of these cases I've worked now, it seems to be the time when people are ready to get their answers. I think they've had a lot of time to process it and realize that it's important.
Well, I told you that my theory was that when you're younger, you're not as interested in your heritage and your family tree and all that.
Yeah, well, I was, but
Yeah, most people.
I'm not normal.
But most people. And although, what some woman on the Facebook page said, well, I'm young and I've been interested in this. So there are, it's like it could be anybody's hobby. But overall, I think the general population, people are not more interested in that until they're, sort of out of their 20s and 30s.
I think adoptees, it's always in the back of their mind.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think, they're wait to act on it until a little later. So in this case, this woman is looking for both of her parents. We've confirmed through DNA that her mother is one of two sisters, and they were about 10 years apart in age. The older one has passed away. She was married like 5 times and never had any kids. And for some reason, I'm leaning towards the other sister who is several years younger and is still living, and I'm not sure why she's other than...
Why she's still living?
No. Aw,
healthier lifestyle, I imagine.
Yes. So she is... So now we want to reach out to her. We have spoken to a relative who is afraid to reach out to her, but is very gradually getting the gumption up to confront her and say, hey, did you have a baby?
Right.
And of course, she did have one other child who has passed away, so we don't have that person to test.
Right.
On the paternal side, based on a first cousin match, his father has one brother. So because he's a first cousin, we would assume that it's the father's brother.
Okay.
Okay. I spoke to the son of said brother, and he told me that 2 sisters took a DNA test on 23andMe. Now, no, he said at first they took a DNA test, and I said, on Ancestry? He said, yeah. And I said, are you sure? And he said, well, I'm going to have dinner with him tonight. I'll ask him. Calls me the next day. It was 23andMe.
All right.
Great. So I go and I look at, now my client's son has taken a 23andMe test. So it'll be a more distant match, but it should still match. No match. Neither of the sisters match my client's son.
Oh.
That's a mystery. Then I come to find out, then this gentleman tells me, oh yeah, and also it's kind of a problem. It turns out they're half sisters. My sisters are half sisters. So one of them has a different father.
A different father, yeah.
So that already, it was a shock to everybody. That's not my fault though, because they had already discovered that.
Okay. They hadn't withheld that from you. They just...
Right. So he said, well, let me talk to my sisters and see if we want to reach out to our father and do this, because he's older and he's not in great health or anything. But also the fact that they don't match leads me to believe that, it can't be him then.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm like, so I need you, will you talk to them? So I talked to him a few days later, and he tells me they're on 23andMe, and somehow we found out that they weren't a match, but they also, neither of them were a match to a known cousin on the father's side.
Wow.
Close cousin.
All right.
Neither of them. So now we're at, he is not the father of either of those sisters, but still may be the father of my client.
Oh, wow. That's...
Yeah. And so I said, how are your sisters handling this? And he says, they're freaking out. And I said, well, I could help them. I mean, I know this isn't an ideal situation, but I could maybe at least help them. And do you think one of them would talk to me? He said, yeah, call this one. She'll talk to you. So I call the one sister who was the first one that knew that they were half siblings, and she wasn't actually freaking out as much as him. He seemed to be freaking out more,
okay,
which I thought was interesting. She seemed to be taking it a little more calmly. Let's put it that way. But she allowed me access to her 23andMe page so I can look, and sure enough, she didn't match the other cousin. And her sister didn't match the other cousin. In fact, they don't match any of the relatives on their paternal grandmother's side.
Well, then what does that mean?
That means that their father who raised them, is actually neither of their biological father.
Oh my God, all these secrets come out now.
I
right?
know. And they've asked their mother, and she said it's all crap. It's not true.
But the truth is in their genes.
I know it. And then the son, who is a peace officer, told me he doesn't believe in this stuff. And
Doesn't believe in what stuff?
he doesn't believe in the DNA testing, and actually said, well, this is not DNA proof.
Oh, dear.
And I told him, this is exactly what it is, friend.
Oh, dear.
Oh, so it gets better.
Oh.
The sister, the first one that I talked to, turns out she has another half-sister that she doesn't know that came up as a match on 23andMe.
Okay.
And she said, funny thing is, her name, she hasn't responded to any messages, but I looked her up. And first of all, her maiden name is the same name as my mother's high school sweetheart.
Well, there you go.
And I said, well, do you think it could be like him? And she said, well, nah, she doesn't live in where we live, where we grew up. She lives somewhere else. I'm like, well, she could have moved.
Yeah.
So I did a quick search, as I do, and discovered that indeed she is related to this man.
Wow. So some little secret high school rendezvous turned into something.
Right, or post-high school,
Yeah.
because they broke up, she got married and had this oldest daughter, and then they got divorced when her son was born, and she went back with the same guy for a while.
Well,
Are you ready? There's more.
oh my God.
He died 3 days ago.
Oh, no. 3 days?
3 days ago. And there's more. They all went to the wake. The mother and two of the sisters.
Before they knew?
No, they knew.
Oh, they knew.
Well, the mother was still denying it.
Okay.
So they went to the wake. And then she said to her mom, I have this DNA match, and I think she's the daughter of this man that we are burying today. And she said, what's her name? And she gave her name. He said, that's not his daughter. That's his brother's daughter.
Oh.
So I went back and looked, and sure enough, yes, she could be his brother's daughter.
Is the brother still alive?
Yes,
Oh.
He was there at the wake.
Yeah, of course he was.
And she met him. So now I said, okay, so yes, I get if she's the brother's daughter and she's your half sister, then the brother is your father. So what does your mother have to say about that? And she said, she's denying it all still.
This is sort of like your birth mother.
Isn't it crazy? Except for these people are living, and you can ask them.
Right.
And she has DNA proof already of a half sister. So in the meantime, we're dealing with this for these poor people whose world has just gone up in smoke.
Right.
They don't want to tell the father anything because he's in poor health. But at the same time, they want my client to know who her father is. So there are 3 more siblings. The brother has already refused to test because he thinks it's BS. Mm-hmm. Hopefully one of the other daughters is his actual daughter and will give us an answer, because they don't know if they're going to be able to convince the father to test or if they even want to. So that's where we are.
Wow. That's a lot of twists and turns, Julie.
It's mind-boggling.
Believe it or not.
I believe it or not, everybody, this is my life.
Wow. Yeah. And the timing of it, of having that one guy die 3 days prior, and then them being at the wake.
A lot.
Really?
Yeah, that happens a lot, because that happened to me. I found out I had a great aunt, or a second great aunt, that lived in Ventura, and she died like a week after I found out who my family was, and I could have visited her and found out. She was the one that was an opera singer.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
What an interesting life you have, Julie, going into these stories of people you don't know, who are just clients.
It's fascinating, but it's disturbing. It's not disturbing. I don't know how do I put it. It's jarring.
Yeah.
I mean, people are finding out these things that I think they need to know and should want to know, but everybody's at a different place in their life when they're ready to process it.
Right.
And what I'm finding is that I start with one case and I end up with several other people.
So many. Ugh.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave.
It is a web, though. Like it's like a web.
It's a web.
It's a web of lies.
It's a web of deception.
And deception.
Oh, so much. Okay.
On that note,
break.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
All right, we're back.
Hello.
Let's do a book nook.
Oh, we haven't done one of those in a while.
We haven't, and I have a couple.
Okay.
Actually. So the first one, and this is this one that has been in the adoptee zeitgeist for quite a while, and I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's The Primal Wound, Understanding the Adopted Child. It was written, published in 1993 by Nancy Newton Verrier. So this is probably the first book that was written that really gets into the psyche of an adoptee and what their experience is and what physiologically happens to them, as being an adoptee, being taken from from where they were for 9 months and never seeing that person again and having difficulty bonding and what have you. I will say I have never finished it because I get triggered every time. Every time I try. First of all, like the first chapter, I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, oh my gosh. So I don't know. I'd like to hear back from other adoptees what it did for them. I think it's a very important book. And perhaps it was the time that I tried to read it.
Has it been a while since you've looked at it?
Yeah. And I'm a lot more, it was before I really started doing this stuff and talking to a lot of other adoptees.
I have a feeling, and I don't know because I'm not you, but that if you were to go back and look at it now from the perspective you have from all of this work you've done, that it may not be as triggering, or at least you'll understand it more, understand the trigger, the reason behind it, and be able to plow forward through it because you know where it's coming from. And also you might have already processed some of that just vicariously through your experiences with
absolutely.
all
I think
these people.
now, less of it would be surprising. At the time, it was triggering in only that I thought I was crazy for so long about certain things, and it was validation and quick validation of like stuff that I had been told that I shouldn't be feeling.
But once you find out that you're not alone, and in fact, through all the other adoptees that you've met and dealt with, that it's a common thing to go through that you feel less alone. It almost makes it better,
Yeah, definitely.
Because like you said, you're not crazy. You're not the only one.
Yes,
that feels
you weren't
that
imagining
way.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So
finish that book, Julie.
All right, I'll try to finish the book. But first, I'm going to finish this other one that I just started. And let's do a book club. I want you guys to read it too. So it's called, and it was recommended somewhere on Facebook. I saw it as a recommendation, and I thought, this sounds fascinating. So it's called The Most Dangerous Animal of All, Searching for My Father and Finding the Zodiac Killer.
Oh, wow. Well, that's quite a title.
By Gary L. Stewart. Now, I didn't think the Zodiac Killer case was solved. Have you heard that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know.
I think I would know because I'm kind of into that stuff. So I'm very curious where this is going to go.
I'm a Capricorn, and we're just not really that interested in it.
I'm an Aries. We're on fire about it. Okay. So, but anyway, I'm fascinated. I've started. I'm on the second chapter, and I've got it on Audible because I listen to things. But yeah, guys, if you want to read along with me, I'd love to have your feedback and see what you have to say about it.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
It'd be fun. Okay, so let's take another break before story time.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Jeans with Julie Dixon Jackson and Richard Castle. That's me.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
We have a new story time.
Oh, I love a news story.
Me too. This is the delightful Jenna Robertson, who is a listener. We had such a fun conversation. She's good people.
I love that. You get to meet so many nice people through this.
I'm telling you, I love it. It's really uplifting.
Yeah, it's like making new friends.
Yeah, it is. It is. So Jenna has a great story to tell, and I'm going to let you guys hear the first part of it right now. Hey, everybody. I am Skyping today with Jenna Robertson, who is calling from Vegas, baby. Is that right?
Hey, Julie. Yes,
Hi.
yes.
Are you from Vegas?
I am not. I, like most people here, I'm from Southern California. We moved here about 20 years ago.
Oh, like your whole family?
It was just my husband and I then. He wanted to go to school to teach. So we came to UNLV and then kind of started our family through foster care and adoption. We started our family here in Vegas.
Gotcha. Wait a minute. You say you've been married for more than 20 years?
I was a baby. Yes.
I'm going to say you sound like a teenager to me.
Thanks.
I was
Julie.
thinking,
Yes.
I'm like, well, she's a mere child.
Young at heart.
Young at voice.
Thank you.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
So, Jenna, you are going to tell us your epic odyssey, correct?
Oh, it is so epic. Yes.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Okay. So, start wherever you'd like to start. The beginning is always a good place to start.
Okay. Actually, being a foster mom and an adoptive mom, it plays a big part of my story. So I will, I'll start there.
Okay.
I have 4 kids adopted through foster care. We were foster parents for about 10 years, just kind of hoping that someone would stay forever. And we were lucky enough to adopt 2 sets of half siblings. And that's important to my story only because I know your audience understands the importance of half siblings.
Yes,
so.
and the difference between half siblings and whole siblings.
Exactly.
Numbers wise,
So,
sure. Okay.
Yes. Each of my sets of half siblings shares a birth mom and then has different birth fathers.
Okay.
So one of my daughters, her birth mother passed away young. And unfortunately, we never knew her birth father. He wasn't on any paperwork. She never named him. So we likely would never know who her birth father was,
right,
had it not been for maybe the promise of the DNA tests online.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd always been curious about it. And I'll get to that part of my story too. But I'd always been curious about it, hoping that I maybe had siblings out there. So I thought, with my husband's permission, we talked about it a lot. Let's test our daughter. And just out of curiosity, we'll see what her ethnicity is. We didn't even know that. We didn't even know her ethnicity.
Yeah.
And so we always have those assignments in elementary school, celebrate your ethnicity. We're going to make a poster and show your heritage and all that. So we had one child who did a poster of our ethnicity, and little white child was perfectly fine making a poster of Scotland. That was great. Robertson, Scotland. They love Nessie. It was great.
Yep.
But that
it all tracks.
Yes. That likely was not going to be good enough for our brown-skinned child.
Gotcha.
So we thought, let's find out her heritage and give her something to be proud of, even if we can't tell her who her birth father is.
Yay, excellent adoptive mom.
Thank you.
You get points.
I appreciate that. We felt really proud of that.
It's very true. I mean, I think you shouldn't even adopt if you're not prepared to acknowledge your child's past. So,
well, not only acknowledge it, but we want to celebrate it.
Yes.
We have another child who is half African American, and we want her to know that. So we didn't know if we were celebrating maybe half African American, half Hispanic. We didn't know what we were celebrating. So we did her DNA test. It was on sale, Amazon Prime Day. So I got a 23andMe test for her and a 23andMe test for me. I thought we'll spit in the tubes together, solidarity, mom and daughter, we'll do it together.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun. And I'd already been doing my genealogy for years, and I'll tell you about that too. But so I was curious always, maybe I had half siblings. For my daughter, we just wanted to know her ethnicity, and then I was going to shut it down private and let her have that when she was 18.
Right.
So we did our test, we spit, we got our results and found out my daughter was half Mexican, which is great. We now know what to celebrate. We're so happy. Well, at first we thought she was Native American because we didn't really know how to read the results.
Oh, and it said Native American, yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
So we were very excited about celebrating Native American.
Sure.
And then we found out she's Mexican, and we're happy to celebrate that. But I think the results are just so confusing, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they could be clear. So we're happy with that. We knew what to celebrate now. So with me, I checked into my matches, of course, on 23andMe. And this is sort of where my childhood history comes in.
Okay.
I was an only child of a single mom, a young single mom. Mm-hmm. She had me right out of high school. And my father was never really around. They got married young. While she was pregnant, they got married. I'd always heard stories of his parents not being very supportive, not thinking I was his. So they divorced before my first birthday. He was out of the picture. We lived in a small town in Michigan. I always knew where his house was. Never once had any interaction with him myself.
Oh,
I would walk by his house on my way home from school.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I'm in therapy for that, Julie.
I bet.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, thanks. So I would walk by his house. I had heard maybe he got remarried, and I'd always wondered if I had siblings. So that's kind of where my interest in genealogy comes from, where my interest in this DNA stuff comes from. I always wanted to know if I had half siblings.
Right.
So wanting to know this, I did the test with my daughter, and I'd grown up with his last name. That was my last name. So when I did the 23andMe test, my top match shared my last name, shared my maiden name.
Okay.
So I thought, oh, well, there it is. There's a paternal relative. And I didn't know any paternal relatives. So I was so excited to see this match with my last name. And she contacted me before I could even contact her.
Oh, wow.
So it was close. It was like, I forget what it said, like first or second cousin match, however it says it on 23andMe. Mm-hmm. And so we knew we were related. We kind of resembled each other in a weird way. She had been adopted out of that family. So she had been in contact with her biological family over the years, had some obituaries, sent me some information. None of it made sense. I'd been doing my father's genealogy from probably high school.
Yeah. And
none of these names looked familiar to me. So, but we had the same last name, so we had to be related.
So wait a minute. You had the same last name, but she was adopted.
She had her birth name on her 23andMe account.
Oh, okay. So, gotcha.
So her birth last name matched my birth last name.
Understood.
So sorry, I should have made that clear.
That's okay.
So we felt a pretty instant connection. We chatted on the phone. Neither of us could answer the other's questions, but we built a rapport, and it was kind of nice to have a paternal connection. I figured if my dad didn't want anything to do with me, I was going to find maybe a cousin who did. So this was kind of fun. Mm-hmm. But we couldn't answer anybody's questions. So we just built our own little relationship online, friends on Facebook, found out things we had in common, and she was able to share pictures with me of people that I kind of resembled, yet had no idea who they were.
Wow.
Her mom, for example, looked very similar to me, and she was convinced that maybe I was her mom's sibling, but the DNA, the centimorgans didn't kind of support that.
It said first to second cousin? Or
yes, it was a solid first to second cousin match.
Gotcha.
It was. So we just kind of developed this relationship on our own. So then I had my daughter's information, and now I had some of my information. There were no half siblings on 23andMe. I was good with that. There was another cousin match, but she didn't reply to me. No big deal. I felt good making this connection. Mm-hmm. And I felt good that as far as I knew, I felt good that I was making a paternal connection that might lead to something else. I might get more later.
Yeah.
I never in a million years considered uploading my information anywhere else. I never considered doing Ancestry, although I'd been a member of Ancestry for a lot of years doing just regular genealogy. 23andMe was on sale, so I did that test first. So a good year passes, or maybe a couple months pass, and I'm so confused by not being able to place her relatives on my family tree that I just set it aside. I kind of got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I set it aside. I just let it down and kind of let go. And by the way, I had done genealogy pretty consistently since maybe high school-ish, when I got my dad's father's obituary.
Okay.
And that was the first time I'd ever gotten names. So I'd ripped out his obituary out of the paper. I was maybe 14 or 15 years old. I kept it in a book. It moved with me. We made many, many moves. And that stayed with me. And that was the start of my genealogy, because I had names. I had his wife's name. I had his parents' name.
Yeah. Cool.
And I didn't even know I was starting genealogy, but I was.
Right.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that was my only connection to my dad's side of the family. So I kept that little obituary in a book for years.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to, this is really fast forwarding.
Okay.
The Golden State Killer gets caught.
Uh-huh.
Now, I've always loved true crime. I've always watched the movies on TV, read the books.
Yep.
It was never really about the gruesome details. It was always about the resolution of the crime, how they caught the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know who the Golden State Killer was until he got caught, and then it sort of hit all the, podcasts and all the. But I didn't really get interested in the Golden State Killer until they started talking about how they caught him.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's genetic genealogy getting introduced, and that DNA test that I always took was kind of sitting in the corner. And I thought, well, I've already done that. I've already got my results.
Right. You're halfway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then all the controversy hit online about the privacy issues of GEDmatch. And I'm thinking, Paul Holes, take my DNA. So kind of in solidarity with these cold case detectives, I uploaded, kind of in defiance of, the online community, I took my DNA and I uploaded it to GEDmatch.
Atta girl. By the way, I love that you used Paul Holes by name.
I love Paul Holes. Literally, I just did it in solidarity with these detectives.
Yeah.
So I uploaded my DNA, didn't expect any more information. My first match was a different cousin, and it was a higher match than my 23andMe cousin, who also showed up.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, what does this mean? So by looking at her centimorgans, I was kind of already on some of the forums for genetic genealogy now and following the process of how this works. So I knew about the tools, and I checked DNA Painter. Mm-hmm. It's my favorite tool now.
Mine too.
And I plugged in the centimorgans, and it was a solid first cousin or aunt. And I thought, okay, so this is a new paternal match. I knew it was paternal.
Yeah.
Different last name. How does this person fit in? So I, being very naive and not really knowing what I was doing, I sent her an email because I had her email address right there from GEDmatch. Mm-hmm. Hi, I think we're cousins. Of course, everybody does that, and that's not what you want to do, but yeah. I didn't know any better then. And she wrote me back, and I hit the gold mine of random relatives.
Yes.
She is her family genealogist. She helps do genealogy research at a local university for people. She volunteers. And she traveled to Finland, which all of a sudden here I have all this Finnish DNA in me. Oh. And that was my first indication, by the way, that something was wrong. When I got into 23andMe, all of my matches should have been French-Canadian, maybe French, German from my mom's side. And I was like 50% Finnish. So what threw me here was the Finnish, because I'm from a little town in Upper Michigan. There's a lot of Finnish population up there.
Yeah. So
it didn't really throw me, except for all of the research I've done previously did not lead to Finland at all. So here I am Finnish, this new match. I then uploaded to MyHeritage. I uploaded to Family Tree DNA. Is that correct?
Yep.
FT DNA. So I did all of the extras, and this other cousin, this new higher match, kept showing up, and I was able to see she was largely Finnish. She was from the town over of my hometown of where I grew up, this little town in Michigan. So I knew there was a connection. I knew that it was a paternal match. I still didn't quite know how to fit. And I was able to look at her trees. I emailed her. She was very responsive to me. She assumed that maybe I was maybe a third or fourth cousin, even though the centimorgan said, nope, first cousin. she couldn't quite figure it out because she'd done this research. She knew her family. She knew these family members that I was only seeing as names on my family tree. Mm-hmm. So there was no way I could fit in where the math, and I just refer to it all as math, where the math said I should fit. She could not figure it out. So I was able to ask her, look, I matched this person on this site. Doesn't that mean I'm related to this person? And she would say, yes, but you don't match that person who tested at that site.
Right.
So because she did all her family genealogy, she knew where everyone had tested, and she knew who I should look for. She knew how I should match people, and I was matching people higher than what I should have matched according to her research.
Okay.
So I keep doing all this work on my own. And I contact my mom, and I said, Mom, do you know if maybe my dad was adopted from this family? And I gave her the last name. And she said, I don't think he was adopted. She said they were older parents. And she said it was him and some really, really much older siblings who my mom had never even met. So she said, maybe he was adopted. Maybe it was a family match. Maybe she couldn't have kids and adopted through the family. Who knows? But I knew that it had to be a family match because this other paternal cousin had my same last name.
Right.
So if she had my last name and I matched this other family, surely he must have been adopted from this family in my head.
Yeah.
Because, he was my dad. So my mom reminded me that when they divorced in the 70s, before I was a year old, she had asked for child support, which he had to pay a nominal child support fee for me throughout my childhood, probably till I was about 10 or 11. It wasn't forever. And part of that deal was a paternity test, which came back positive enough that he was my dad.
Okay.
That he paid child support for me.
Okay.
So he must have thought I was his too, even if, his parents did not. So flash forward, I've got all these matches that I'm not really sure what to do with. All of a sudden it hits me one day. Maybe he wasn't adopted from this family. Maybe he's not my dad.
Uh-huh.
So, Julie, this took me like a year to let go of that idea that maybe he's not my dad because of this 1971 paternity test. 72, sorry.
That's legit, though. Especially if he matched you somewhat enough to...
to give me some reasonable expectation.
Right. If he took a DNA test and they said, yeah, he needs to pay child support, why wouldn't you assume that he's your father? All right. End of part 1.
Wow, that was good.
I know. She's great.
I can't wait to hear the rest of it next week or more of it. I don't know how many parts, but I'm excited to hear the next part.
I'm not sure either how many more parts. I forgot how long we talked. It went so quickly, though. But yeah. So thanks, Jenna. And we will hear part 2 of that next week. In the meantime,
I am Richard Castle. I am a musician, composer, a songwriter. You can go follow me on the Twitter at Castle Songs. And you can go to my website at richardcastle.com.
I'm Julie Dixon Jackson on the Twitter, at Jules Jackson with 2 O's, 1 word. The podcast is at Cutoff Jeans Pod. We have a Facebook group called Cutoff Jeans Podcast. Ask to join. I'll probably let you in. I also have an Instagram page called Cutoff Jeans Podcast. If anybody wants to look for it. I know. I'm not very good at Instagramming because you can only do it from your phone, and I don't do a lot of things from my phone.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm not on Instagram.
Well,
so I have no idea.
Right.
I just don't take enough pictures, and it's all photo based, isn't it?
Yes, so it's photo based, and which is good though. And the kids like it.
Yeah, well,
my daughter's all over Insta.
Is she? Oh, is that what they call it now?
Insta. Yeah. Insta me. I think that's what they say. That didn't really sound right, did it?
Well, who knows?
Okay, I have one more thing to say.
What is that?
The truth is in your jeans.
Put it on Instagram.